Good evening. You're watching the News Tonight with me, Shah. News Tonight is the daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. And these are the headlines that we're tracking right now. Heavy campaign trail continues in Bihar. Sonia Gandhi slams the Prime Minister's promise of development, while BJP Chief Amit Shah takes on the Grand Alliance in his rallies. Violence mars Bengal civic polls. Left parties accuse the Trinamool Congress of rigging in clashes. Only 40% turnout recorded. Running out of fuel and food due to blockade at the border, Nepal moves the United Nations seeking global help to ensure supply of essential stocks. US warns Russia against striking non-IS groups in Syria. Obama says Russian strategy in Syria is a recipe for disaster. And Shashank Manohar is all set to become the next BCCI president. The board will elect Dalmia's successor on Sunday, for which Manohar is the sole contender. A top story this evening, Congress President Sonia Gandhi resumed her campaign trail in Bihar today. In two rallies at Bhagalpur and Gaya, she took on Prime Minister Narendra Modi over his promises of development for the state. She called on voters to defeat divisive forces in the forthcoming assembly polls.
This was the first time since the elections were announced Congress President launched her campaign trail in Bihar. It comes a day after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's rally in Banka, where he assured the state of development if elected to power. Sonia Gandhi chose to hit back at the Prime Minister, terming Modi's assurances on development as false promises. She also accused the Modi government of taking credit for renamed schemes from the UPA regime.
पैकेजिंग और रिपैकेजिंग के मामले में माहिर प्रधानमंत्री पुरानी योजनाओं जिन्हें राष्ट्र कभी असंधान है उस सबको मिला जुलाकर इस पैकेज के रूप में दोबारा पेश किया.
Describing Bihar polls as decisive, she called upon the voters to keep divisive forces at bay and vote for Chief Minister Nitish Kumar for another term. She also slammed BJP on the issue of reservation.
आपसे झूठे वादे करते हैं, बिहार की गरिमा को ठेस पहुंचाते हैं, पैकेज के नाम पर भी बिहार वासियों को धोखा देना चाहते हैं. ऐसी पार्टी और उनके गठबंधन को हराने के लिए आप अपनी पूरी ताकत से हमारे गठबंधन के सभी उम्मीदवारों को भारी मतों से जिताएं.
This was Congress President's second visit to Bihar to campaign for the Grand Alliance after the 30th August mega rally in Patna. She will address 3 more rallies on 17th of October. Congress has planned 20 rallies by Sonia Gandhi and Vice President Rahul Gandhi.
Congress President Sonia Gandhi intensified the poll pitch to drum up support for Grand Alliance candidates. Upping the ante against the BJP, Sonia questioned government's claims on inflation. She also gave a clarion call to the voters to consolidate against the divisive forces and not get deluded by their false promises. Reporting from Wazirganj with camera person Sudhanshu, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
And as the polls in Bihar near, the BJP is going all out to woo voters. The BJP President Amit Shah addressed a rally in Purnia district and also met party workers. The tone for both his meetings today was similar: appeal for Bihar's development and criticized the Grand Alliance.
आपके गांव में, आपके घर में 24 घंटा बिजली आती है क्या?
The BJP is out all guns blazing in Bihar. While party president Amit Shah addressed a rally in Purnia, Home Minister and senior BJP leader Rajnath Singh reached out to voters in Aurangabad. In Purnia, Shah reached out to the voters, saying that he wanted the Simantali voters to decide the fate of the state this time.
जंगल राज 2 आएगा. आप चाहते हैं जंगल राज 2 आए? चाहते हैं क्या? अगर नहीं चाहते हैं तो मैं सीमांचल के रहवासियों को आज अपील करने के लिए आया हूं. नरेंद्र मोदी के नेतृत्व में भारतीय जनता पार्टी की पूर्ण बहुमत की सरकार बिहार में बनाकर देखिए.
On the other hand, Home Minister Rajnath Singh appealed to voters in Amarpur to vote for the NDA as the ruling party was responsible for the bad state of Bihar.
हम लोगों ने वादा किया है 7 वर्षों के अंदर यानी 2022 आते आते हिंदुस्तान में एक भी गरीब की भी झोपड़ी शेष नहीं बचेगी, यहाँ पर कम से कम एक बिजली का बल्ब न चमकने लगे और यहाँ पर एक अदर कम से कम पंखा भी न चलने लगे, ऐसा एक भी घर नहीं बचे।
Both leaders said that the JDU and the RJD were responsible for the underdevelopment in Bihar. They also said that the Grand Alliance was formed only to oppose the BJP and was without any ideology. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The civic polls in West Bengal today were marred with violence that has reportedly left several people injured. Over 40% turnout was recorded in the polls for the civic bodies in Bidhannagar, Asansol and Howrah. The Election Commission said that it has received numerous complaints about malpractices, rigging and violence. The left parties accused the ruling Trinamool Congress of resorting to violence and capturing booths to win the elections. The BJPs as well filed a complaint with the Election Commission over the reported violence. The polls are being touted as a semi-final ahead of the state elections due next year. The results will be announced on the 7th of October.
मैंने ये बोला जो इलेक्शन आज हुआ ये इलेक्शन एकदम फालतू इलेक्शन हुआ, इलेक्शन में कोई पब्लिक ये हुआ ही नहीं, तो इसको बदल करके नया इलेक्शन करने के लिए बोला. We want the immediately arrest of the people, those who have charged those who have attacked the journalists.
The leaders of the Gujarat Congress urged President Pranab Mukherjee not to clear Gujarat's anti-terror bill and a bill on agricultural land ceiling. A delegation led by the state's party president and Gujarat's leader of opposition met the president today. They allege that both bills are against the democratic rights of the people of Gujarat.
The dispute between the BJP and the Congress in Gujarat over the controversial anti-terror law reached the president's door on Saturday. A delegation of Gujarat Congress leaders, led by Sonia Gandhi's political secretary Ahmed Patel, met President Pranab Mukherjee, urging him not to give assent to the Gujarat Control of Terrorism and Organised Crime Bill.
हमारा जो क्राइम कंट्रोल एक्ट भी था 3-4 बार यहाँ से वापस राज्य सरकार को भेजने के बावजूद भी एक ईगो इश्यू बनाया है बीजेपी की गवर्नमेंट ने, फिर से इन्होंने यहाँ भेजा, फिर से शायद होम मिनिस्ट्री ने महामहिम राष्ट्रपति को भेजा है. तो हम प्रार्थना करते हैं मेहरबानी करके एंटी ह्यूमन जो गवर्नमेंट है, कॉमन मैन का राइट छीनने वाली जो गवर्नमेंट है, एंटी फार्मर जो है गवर्नमेंट है, एंटी ट्राइबल एंटी एसटी जो भी हम कहें, इस सरकार का ये बिल एक्ट न बने, इस हिसाब से आप उसको रोक रखें आपके पास, कृपया इसको एक्ट न बनाए, ये प्रार्थना करने हम आए थे. महामहिम जी ने बताया कि मैं आई लुक इनटू द मैटर.
Requests were also made to the president to block the Gujarat Agricultural Land Ceiling Amendment Bill of 2015. Leaders allege it's a pro-industries bill that will deprive the poor farmers of their land.
महामहिम राष्ट्रपति जी को हमने ये प्रार्थना की है कि एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड सीलिंग एक्ट से जो सरप्लस लैंड गरीब जनता को SC, ST, OBC, मालदारी, लैंडलेस लेबरर, मार्जिनल फार्मर्स उसको मिलने वाली थी, उसके बजाय वो जमीन को मूढ़ीपतियों, उद्योगपतियों को देने का प्रावधान उस बिल में किया गया है. हमने ये प्रार्थना राष्ट्रपति जी को की है, ये बिल को भी वो एसेंट न दे.
The 35-member delegation also submitted a memorandum to the president stating that the rejection to the bills would go a long way in upholding the spirit of federalism. Both the bills were passed by the Gujarat Assembly early this year. With Vishal Daya, Bureau Inputs, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's now get you some more national news and updates in Nationwide. 6 Kannada writers have returned their awards to the State Sahitya Parishad, protesting the delay in the arrest of M.M. Kalburgi's killers. The noted rationalist was gunned down over a month ago. His murder had raised a storm over the threat to free speech. The Jammu and Kashmir Assembly session began on a stormy note today as the BJP brought a resolution demanding capital punishment for those who violate beef ban in the state. This comes even as the National Conference and a few independent legislators are demanding scrapping of the archaic ban. The All India Motor Transport Congress continued its nationwide strike against the present toll system for the third consecutive day today. Supply of goods to various parts of the country has been disrupted. The government has, however, refused to scrap the toll collection system. Now, facing an acute shortage of essential goods, Nepal has moved the United Nations over stalled border trade with India. The Nepalese government has appealed for global help to ensure that its freedom of transit is not curtailed. It comes amid thousands of trucks still stranded at the borders due to protests by the Madhesi community.
Roadblocks by the Madhesi community at the India-Nepal border has not only left Nepal running out of essential stocks, but also stranded thousands of Indian truck drivers. For days, the drivers continue to suffer and struggle for essentials. Protesters have blocked around 4,000 trucks, which are mainly carrying fuel and food items for Nepal.
जब इधर आ गए हम लोग तो वो बोलते हैं कि उनका मैटर है. जब उनको मनाया तो ये बोलते हैं कि हम छोड़ेंगे नहीं. ये नेपाल पुलिस हम लोग बोले कि पहले हमारे गाड़ी को छोड़ेंगे तब यहाँ से आपको छोड़ने देंगे. और प्लस खाने पीने की भी दिक्कत है. किसी ने मोबाइल बेचा, किसी ने टायर बेच के चले गए, किसी के बाप माँ का पितर पक्का पानी नहीं चलाया, कोई पूजा नहीं कर पा रहा, कोई घर जाने मांग रहा, जाने नहीं पा रहा. और हम लोग गाड़ी लेके फंसे कि खाने भी न मर रहे हैं. घर वाले की बहुत याद आ रही है.
मुझे भी अभी पता चला है कि करीब 200 ट्रक जो हैं वो यहाँ पे खड़े हैं, जो नेपाल में सामान सप्लाई करके भारत खाली ट्रक हैं जो जाना चाह रहे हैं, उनको नेपाल सरकार ने रोक रखा है. तभी हमने असिस्टेंट सीडीओ से बात की और उनको पूछा तो उन्होंने कहा कि वो समस्या को देख रहे हैं और खाली ट्रक को छोड़ दिया जाएगा.
Struggling to cope with essential items running out, Nepal has reached the doorsteps of the United Nations. It has sought help to ensure free flow of goods and services. Nepal's Deputy Prime Minister Prakash Man Singh held talks with UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, during which the UN chief expressed concern over the issue. But on the ground, protests seemed far from over. On Saturday, the Nepal Teachers Association came out backing the Madhesi community.
यहाँ का जो सरकार है, बहिरा सरकार, कुंभकर्ण के निद्रा में सोया हुआ है, उस सरकार को जगाने के लिए, मधेसी को मांग पूरा करने के लिए लास्ट आवर में टीचर जमात, शिक्षक जमात आंदोलन में उतर गया है.
The community launched a protest against splitting Nepal into 7 provinces according to the new constitution. More than 40 people have been killed in the protest since August. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And just days after India gave a stern reply to Pakistan for raising the Kashmir issue at the UN, the latter is at it again. This time, Pakistan Army Chief General Raheel Sharif has reiterated that without Kashmir, there would be no peace in the region unless the long-standing issues are resolved. He said this in his address at the Royal United Services Institute in London.
Pakistan Army Chief General Raheel Sharif has once again touched on a raw nerve by reiterating that Kashmir was part of an unfinished agenda of partition. He also called on the world community to help resolve the long-standing issue if there was to be hope of genuine peace in the region. The Pak Army Chief went on to say that the dispute between the two countries resides in the Kashmir issue. The remark comes just days after Pak PM Nawaz Sharif raised the Kashmir issue at the UN. Despite India having given a stern reply to that, Pakistani leaders continue the rhetoric. The remarks have, however, been panned by Indian leaders across the political spectrum.
As the government of India has time and again maintained that the unfinished agenda in Pakistan is the POK, which is part of us, and it should be returned back to us.
Pakistani Army Chief is absolutely correct. The only unfinished business of partition is the reclaim of all that territory which is illegally occupied by Pakistan.
Kashmir is an integral part of India. We have been stating this. People in Kashmir have stated this time and again through the democratic process, and nations of the world acknowledge this.
Pakistan further says it is regrettable that India was not responding to what it calls its goodwill gesture. Referring to Kashmir as its internal matter, it also accused India of supporting terrorism. Aziz also said that Kashmir was among the oldest unresolved international disputes at the UN forum. He said this while speaking at the annual coordination meeting of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation Foreign Ministers. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time for us to take a very quick break. On the other side, we'll talk about the warning that the US has given to Russia over the airstrikes in Syria. And meanwhile, US jets have founded a hospital in Afghanistan that have killed at least 16. All that and more on the other side, including in Bangladesh. The second attack on foreigners this week. Japanese worker shot dead now. More on that on the other side.
The poll juggernaut rolls out in Bihar. Modi's NDA takes on Nitish's Grand Alliance. Who will win this most important election battle since 2014? Watch Verdict 2015, Monday through Saturday on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, US President Barack Obama has sent a stern warning to Russia as the latter continues its airstrikes in Syria for the third straight day today. Obama said that the Russian bombings are strengthening the Islamic State instead of driving them out. Meanwhile, Russia stood firm on its assertion that they're waging a war against the IS, just like the US-led coalition.
A military solution alone, an attempt by Russia and Iran to prop up Assad and try to pacify the population, is just going to get them stuck in a quagmire.
A stern warning from the US president to Russia. Stop supporting the Syrian president's allies and join the US-led coalition in fighting the Islamic State.
Until that time, we're going to continue to have tensions and we're going to continue to have differences. But we're not going to make Syria into a proxy war between the United States and Russia. That would be bad strategy on our part. This is a battle between Russia, Iran, and Assad against the overwhelming majority of the Syrian people.
But Russia continues to stick to its stand that their airstrikes are only aimed at IS targets and other terror groups. Russian Defense Ministry dismissed international media reports about them as nonsense. They also said that its Air Force made over 20 flights in Russia in the past 24 hours and targeted 9 IS positions. Meanwhile, the Syrian foreign minister echoed Putin's point of view at the United Nations as he questioned the value of political negotiations. He said that airstrikes against militants in his country are useless if they are not coordinated with Assad's government.
Эти псевдосенсации – полная чушь, не имеющая никакой фактической основы для того, чтобы назвать, а тем более обсуждать их детали.
فالإرهاب لا يحارب من الجو فقط وكل ما سبق من عمليات لمكافحته لم تؤدي إلا إلى انتشاره وتفشيه فالضربات الجوية غير مجدية ما لم يتم التعاون مع الجيش العربي السوري.
A day after Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi welcomed Russian airstrikes in Syria, the country's most powerful Shiite cleric also called for a global war against IS. In Syria, IS is one of the many groups fighting Assad and his troops. Washington and its Western and regional allies allege that Russia is using this as a pretext to bomb other groups that oppose Assad. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And we're joined by Manoj Joshi, Distinguished Fellow at ORF, to help us understand. Mr. Joshi, as far as this latest flashpoint is concerned, that Syria has become, between the former Cold War enemies, Russia and US, it threatens to really disrupt that whole process of rapprochement that happened between the two countries.
Well, you know, this is a very complex situation in the sense that it is the United States and the West which decided to destabilize the Assad government in Syria, which is the internationally recognized government of Syria. And we are only seeing the end consequences right now because we know what happened. We know how the destabilization of Mr. Assad led to the rise of the Islamic State. So now the world community is wondering, do you support Mr. Assad to take on the Islamic State, or do you support many of the complex group which want to overthrow Mr. Assad? At the same time, they want to fight the Islamic State. So, it's a very, very messy situation. And I think what the Russians have done is to have cut through all this and said, we're going to support Mr. Assad. Mr. Assad is the person who can take on the IS, which is our primary threat.
All right, but as far as the conversations between the US and Russia go, over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of engagement between the two sides. The leaders of both the nations met. The foreign ministers have been meeting on a regular basis. But as far as Syria is concerned, and because of the geographic location itself of Syria and what it neighbors around that, it's become really critical as to who's in control. And that grappling is sort of the new geopolitics that is emerging right now, isn't it? Can you hear me, Mr. Joshi?
Well, that is indeed a problem. Pardon? Yeah, I just lost a little bit at the end.
I was just asking, as far as US-Russia relations go, this certainly seems to be hitting a new low. How do you see this panning out? Because given the fact that Syria neighbors a lot of countries that are really, in terms of the geopolitics as we are placed right now, could really prove to be very important in times to come.
Well, sometimes in geopolitical situations, the obvious is the best, in the sense that here you have to decide who's your primary enemy. Is the Islamic State your principal enemy, or is it Mr. Assad? And I think as far as many people or most people in the world are concerned, they're really worried about the Islamic State. That's one thing. The second issue is that the West is also entangled with Russia on the issue of Ukraine. So what we are seeing also is a bit of a flow back of the Ukraine crisis into the dynamics of what is happening in Syria right now.
All right, and just talking about Russia itself, do you see this as a resurgence of Russia in terms of the political power and in terms of just geopolitics that it used to have and used to command at one point of time? That it had lost that in the middle, but now it's re-emerged as another bloc, really, and not just against the United States, but against other blocs as well.
Well, the thing is that as far as Russia is concerned, we have to understand that at the end of the day, your real power stems from your economy, and the Russian economy is not doing too well. So if you get involved in military overreach, you're in big trouble, because that was the problem with the old Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was an incredible, huge military power, but it was extremely weak economically. And right now, no one will argue that the Russian economy is doing very well. In fact, it's not doing very well. Yet, we can say that Mr. Putin's geopolitical footing has been excellent, in the sense the intervention in Syria has been backed. I think most of the world, non-Western world, supports it. The problem is that as far as Mr. Putin is concerned, he has an economy which is simply not going anywhere.
All right, on that note, we'll wrap it up. We'll leave it over here. Mr. Manu Joshi, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand. We apologize if you couldn't hear our questions rather properly, but thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand the changing situation as far as Syria is concerned. Meanwhile, in Afghanistan, airstrikes by the US military hit a hospital in the Kunduz city, killing at least 16 and injuring over 30 people. Almost 200 patients and employees were in the hospital when the attack took place. The US military acknowledged that it could have been responsible for the strike and the bombing is under investigation. The medical charity MSF has condemned the attack. It said that the strikes continued for more than 30 minutes after US and Afghan authorities were told of its location. The hospital was on the front line of a major battle in Kunduz. Afghan forces backed by US military recently regained control of the city after Taliban militants had captured it earlier this week. But sporadic clashes still continue between the two sides. Let's now have a look at some other international news stories in Global Buzz. A Japanese citizen was shot dead in Bangladesh today. This is the second fatal attack on foreigners in a country in a week. The victim, who was working for farming projects, died on his way to hospital. The Japanese embassy in Bangladesh has issued an alert for its citizens in the country. Last week, an Italian aid worker was murdered in Dhaka, which was claimed by the Islamic State militants. Elections in Portugal and the campaign ended today before the country goes for polls on Sunday. One of the important issues is unemployment, which has fallen to a record low, followed by the state of the economy that is recovering from a 3-year-long recession. Antonio Costa of the Socialist Party and Pedro Passos Coelho of the Social Democratic Party are the frontrunners in these polls. This year's October 2nd marked the silver anniversary of the reunification of East and West Germany. Germany's political elite attended a church service in Frankfurt. Chancellor Angela Merkel and President Joachim Gauck were also in attendance. Hundreds of people are missing and at least 26 dead after the devastating mudslide hit the capital of Guatemala in Central America. Enormous chunks of hillside, loosened by heavy rain, tumbled onto a suburb. 600 people are helping sift through the rubble to find survivors, while authorities have set up shelters for those left homeless. Some sport now, and Shashank Manohar is all set to return as the BCCI president when the board officials meet tomorrow for the special general meeting in Mumbai. Manohar has emerged as the sole candidate to contest in a bid to succeed Jagmohan Dalmia, who died last month. Manohar's name was unanimously proposed till 2017 by all 6 units of the East Zone. This will be Manohar's second stint as BCCI chief, having served earlier from 2008 to 2011. And time now for all the sport action and sports beat. Women's doubles top seeds Sania Mirza and Martina Hingis continue their unbeaten run by winning the Wuhan Open title. The world number 1 pair eased past the Romanian duo of Irina Camelia Begu and Monica Niculescu 6-2, 6-3 for the 7th title this year. In the last 13 matches, the top-seeded pair has not dropped a single set. The Indian men's hockey team has defeated New Zealand A in the second game of the tour. SK Uthappa scored both goals for India. The men in blue had won the opening game by 3-1 yesterday. The third match will be played on the 6th of October. Major sponsors of FIFA have called for immediate resignation of its president, Sepp Blatter, after the Swiss authorities began criminal proceedings against him. Sponsors Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Budweiser and Visa demanded Blatter step down in a strong push for change in the World Football Body. Blatter was re-elected for a 5th term as president of World Football's governing body in May, but the election was overshadowed when 7 FIFA officials were arrested in a corruption scandal. World number 1 Novak Djokovic defeated Rafael Nadal 6-4, 6-1 in an exhibition match in Bangkok. Out of form, Nadal could hardly pose a challenge to the US Open winner. The match played in Bangkok was aimed to boost tourism after the bomb attack in August that left 20 people dead. Well, that's the news tonight. Good night.